poems of.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember them. Yeah.
No, completely fine.
Yeah.
Hello. So, we're live from the second edition of the Feminist Poetry Festival. We are doing this digitally again. And like the last time, She the People TV and us, we have tried to bring to you the best names to represent poetry and to represent feminist poetry and to represent poetry holistically. I am Saumya. And I am really, really, really happy today because who we are going to talk to today is a very special person, not for me, but for all of the country, for being the flag bearer of female poets slash lyricists in the country. We have not seen a lot of female poets, female lyricists take over with viral tracks which are ruling the hearts, ruling the charts. But if you've heard Dubey, then you know who am I talking about. Kausar Munir Sahiba is with us. Kausar, welcome.
Thank you, Soumya. That was a very illustrious introduction. I hope I'm able to kind of, I'm worthy of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have no doubts about it at all. And I don't think I have it in me to be able to actually introduce the entire portfolio, the entire aura, the entire personality of Kausar. But of course, I can say for myself that I had discovered her poems through Bollywood only, through the Indian film industry, especially from the film Ishaq Zadeh. And thereafter, I discovered that Kausar is not just a lyricist. She has written non-film poetry as well, right? On the basis of which actually our session today is named. Aurat Ka Qaida is a poem by Kausar about which we will talk later. In addition, she is a screenwriter, she is a dialogue writer, she dons many hats, she comes from a long tradition. In fact, her family also boasts of writers, and she's rooted in the culture that she's bringing to all of us. Fun fact, I had no idea that Kausar is also associated with Jassi Jaisi Koi Nahi, and I'm excited to know. That's what your Wikipedia page says, Kausar. But before
That's how I
we go
started my
anywhere,
writing. Yeah, that's how I started my writing in the sort of film slash TV industry. Yeah.
so what did you do for Jassi?
So I started as, kind of a script supervisor, and made my way, because it ran for many years, but at some point I made my way up as screenplay and dialogue writer for some part of it. Yeah.
वाह, वेरी वेरी नाइस टू नो. सो क्योंकि हमारी आज की चर्चा बहुत सारी कविताएं, बहुत सारी शायरी पर होने वाली है, तो क्यों ना हम कौसर की एक पोम से ही शुरू करें, एक कविता से शुरू करें. इनकी एक पोएम है जिसका नाम है ये कविता अभी शुरू नहीं हुई. कौसर, ये बहुत ही एक रिच पोम है जिसमें बहुत सारे सेंटिमेंट्स है, थोड़ा थॉट प्रोवोक करती है, थोड़ा जनरली प्रोवोक करती है ये पोएम. आप एक बार ही सुनाएं और इससे अपनी बातचीत शुरू करते हैं.
Okay, done. So this is the example of that non-film poetry that you're talking about, और जिसकी शुरुआत मैंने actually किसी की request पे की, and that is a very dear friend and a very well-known media personality, रोशन अब्बास. तो वो एक कॉम्यून करके एक शुरू कर रहे थे, एक फोरम जिसमें like-minded people, you do poetry, you do stories, that kind of a thing. तो उसके लिए मैंने ये कविता लिखी थी, और let's start with reading it.
इरशाद.
Yeah. इरशाद नहीं आए.
नहीं आएगा. अच्छा, सॉरी.
ये कविता अभी शुरू नहीं हुई. ये कविता अभी शुरू नहीं हुई. पहले मैं इससे पॉलिटिकल करेक्टनेस का कवच, जी हुजूरी का जामा, ढकोसले की ढाल पहना दूं, फिर इसे लिखूंगी. आईची शपथ लेऊन, साहेबचा आशीर्वाद घेऊन, राष्ट्रवाद का तिलक लगा लूं, फिर इसे कहूंगी. वुजू कर लूं, शरिया ओढ़ लूं, सर समेत हक, हुकूक, सोच सलूक सब ढक लूं, फिर इसे पढ़ूंगी. वजन घटा लूं, आईब्राउ चढ़ा लूं, हील्स बढ़ा लूं, शिप शेप, टिप टॉप, हिप हॉप हो जाऊं, फिर इसे सजाऊंगी. क्या कहा? हाँ, आप यहाँ टाइम वेस्ट करने नहीं आए हैं. मेरी आयरनी नहीं, हल्की फुल्की पोइट्री पचाने आए हैं. जी, कोई एसएमएस वाली शायरी ही सुना दूं? इरशाद. नहीं, वो नहीं आए हैं. मैं कौसर हूँ. जी हाँ, ताज्जुब की बात है, शायरी का शौक रखती हूँ और औरत हूँ. शुरू हो जाना कविता, क्यों मेरी इज्जत खराब कर रही है, क्यों मेरा मुंह काला करवा रही है, क्यों मुझ पे वुमन राइटर होने का लेबल चिपका रही है। देख शुरू हो जा, नहीं तो मेरा सूडो इंटेलेक्चुअलिज्म जाग जाएगा, फेमिनिज्म का नाग उठ जाएगा, सिलेक्टिव आउटरीच का गब्बर आ जाएगा। शायद शायद ये कविता मुझसे डरती है, या आई थिंक इट्स स्कैर्ड। कहीं मैं टैटू ना दिखा दूं, कहीं मैं अवार्ड ना लौटा दूं, कहीं मैं रम ना मांग लूं, कहीं मैं बर्गर ना मंगा लूं, कहीं मैं सोसाइटी के सात्विक सेंटिमेंट्स को हर्ट ना कर दूं, कहीं मैं इस स्वच्छ कम्युनिटी के कल्चर को प्रदूषित ना कर दूं। शिट, ये कविता मुझसे डरती है, मेरी लचकीले जरूरत से ज्यादा फ्री वर्स से डरती है, घबरती है। ना तो इसमें अपने कूल एफएम दोस्तों का कैची बनना है, म्यूजिक कंपनियों ने तो इसे आउटराइट रिजेक्ट कर देना है। ना इसमें मेरे इंटेलेक्चुअल दोस्तों के एफबी पोस्टों का कटीलापन है, दिल्ली वालों ने पीठ पीछे मेरा बड़ा मजाक उड़ाना है। ना बम्बैया की तरह इसमें ग्लैमर है, ना लैक ऑफ ग्रामर है। यार ये रोड से लेकर अपर जूहू तक सब किटियों में मेरा पत्ता कट हो जाना है। बेचारी मेरी डरी हुई कविता शुरू हो भी तो कैसे? पहले तो डिस्क्लेमर का रायता समेटना है, फिर खंडन की खिचड़ी चढ़ानी है, रिग्रेट की रोटियां सेकनी है, भरो पानी अपने ऊपर उंडेलना है, फिर शायद विचारों को कविता में रचने की मुझ में शुद्धि होगी, उसे पढ़ने की मुझ में पाकीज़गी होगी, उसे कहने की मुझ में मर्यादा होगी। लेकिन ये मुझसे नहीं होगा, क्योंकि मैंने अभी तक अपनी कलम का जीएसटी अदा नहीं किया है, अपने कागज के पुर्जों का सेस जमा नहीं किया है, इस कविता को अपने आधार कार्ड से लिंक नहीं किया है। अपने सहमे हुए सीए के हाथों में मजबूर हूं, इसलिए बेहतर है मैं चुप रहूं। सुनने वालों मुझे माफ करना, सूद समेत आपका मुंह लौटा दिया जाएगा। डेमोक्रेसी को जो असुविधा हुई उसके लिए मुझे खेद है। इस कागज में गोरेगांव मित्र मंडल डांडिया के फ्री पासेस जाते जाते उठा लीजिएगा। मैं शायर नहीं हूँ, कायर हूँ। इस बात से इस देश के अच्छे दिनों को कोई हानि नहीं होगी। ये कविता शुरू नहीं हुई, ये कविता कभी शुरू नहीं होगी।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है। मतलब मैं चाहती तो ये कि 100 लोग बराबर यहाँ पे तालियां बजा पाऊं, लेकिन सिर्फ इतनी सी अप्रिसिएशन मैं आपको दे सकती हूँ। एंड आई मीन जब मैं ऐसे पोएट से बात करती हूँ, एंड स्पेशली जब उनको फेमिनिस्ट पोएट्री के प्लेटफॉर्म पे लाते हैं, तो ये पूछना जरूरी समझते हैं कि क्या आप खुद को एक फेमिनिस्ट पोएट बोलना चाहेंगे, या आप खुद को फेमिनिस्ट पोएट समझते हैं। लेकिन इस पोएम के थ्रू आई थिंक काफी कम्युनिकेशन ऑलरेडी हो चुकी है। सो रिच and such a bold poem also, like the fact that aap, of course, hanji,
No, nothing. I'm just
yeah.
laughing. Appreciation. Yeah.
No, such a bold poem also for the kind of vocabulary that you've picked up, right?
Hmm.
It's not what I mean, you represent the world of Urdu poetry definitely for me. तो मैंने पर्सनली नहीं उम्मीद किया था कि इस पोएम में इतना ज्यादा मॉडर्न टच, इतना ज्यादा मिक्सिंग ऑफ लैंग्वेजेस, मिक्सिंग ऑफ सेंटिमेंट्स एंड ए कांस्टेंट स्ट्रेन ऑफ आयरनी भी नहीं, सार्काज्म ही बोलूंगी मैं उसको। आई वुडंट रियली, it's not subtle, it's there, right?
Hmm.
तो कोई स्पेसिफिक प्रोवोकेशन, कोई स्पेसिफिक थॉट behind writing such a poem?
You know, the thing is that there are two parts to your question. I will answer in two parts. एक तो ये है कि जो you said the escape of the vocabulary or the thoughts, or this is actually who I am. So I feel that I don't belong to any one identity, any one location, geography. I have my father's side of the family has its roots, like you mentioned in the beginning, in writing, in Aligarh Muslim University. It's a very rich cultural heritage of an Urdu literature background. लेकिन अफसोस और ताज्जुब की बात यह है कि मैंने कभी उर्दू सीखी नहीं, मुझे लिखना पढ़ना नहीं सिखाया गया, जिसका मुझे बहुत एक मलाल भी रहता है. And as a very interesting aside, I'll tell you, like the year before last, in 2020, at Diwali time, Gulzar Sahab very kindly, and he's so nurturing and so loving to younger, newer writers. He sent me his a book of poetry. It's called A Poem a Day by Gulzar. It's a curation of his of poems that he's translated. और उस किताब में उन्होंने एक उन्होंने उसको किया था, अपने कुछ लिख के मुझे दिया था, इंस्क्राइब किया था, लेकिन उर्दू में. और मैं उसे पढ़ नहीं पाई. तो I was very ashamed, and I learned, and that's when I learned Urdu, and I learned it, and I took that time, and I could read it. So that is that one part of my identity. The other part is this very born and brought up in Bombay, studied in a convent school, went to St. Xavier's College. I feel very, I mean, I hate it when people, जब लोग बम्बई को गाली देते हैं कि बम्बई ऐसा है और वैसा है और ये और फिल्म इंडस्ट्री एंड बॉलीवुड, मेरा बहुत खून खौलता है, because I have very, so that is where my vocabulary comes from, and that is where my thoughts come from. And again, feminist, I understand the need for such festivals and such and to proclaim that they're feminist poetry festival. But I think just the work that you and I are doing and the lives that we are living, they embody that. उसमें उसको वो loves उसको लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन जरूरत है भी, because for for a myriad of reasons. Yeah.
Absolutely agreed and very well answered. So, Kausar, thoda sa we will go into a flashback. हम आपके feminism के बारे में, आपके vocabulary के बारे में तो जानना चाहते ही हैं, but आपके बारे में भी जानना चाहते हैं. आप मुझे correct कर सकते हैं, but मेरी understanding है, and जब मैं ये सिर्फ इंडियन फिल्म इंडस्ट्री पे नहीं अप्लाई करता, बट जब मैं, क्योंकि मैं पोइट्री पढ़ाती हूँ, तो जब मैं कैनोनिकल पोएट्स पढ़ाती हूँ, पुराने समय में जाती हूँ, कैनन में ऐसा बहुत कम होता है कि हमको किसी फीमेल का नाम मिलता है, कभी भी नहीं मिलता. इनफैक्ट ओनली टुडे आई लर्नड, यू नो, व्हाइल प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर दिस सेशन, दैट कॉसर इज एक्चुअली, शी स्टडीड इंग्लिश लिटरेचर, शी इज एन इंग्लिश लिटरेचर पर्सन, राइट? सो शी अंडरस्टैंड्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. एंड व्हेन वी लुक एट इंडियन सिनेमा, राइट, तब तो लिरिक्स के मामले में मुझे नहीं समझ में आता कि मैंने आपके अलावा किसी का भी और का नाम सुना हो. तो जहां पर एक दरवाजा ही नहीं था, राइट, घुसने के लिए, वहां आपने अपनी जर्नी कैसे शुरू करी? आई एम श्योर दिस विल मेक फॉर अ वेरी ग्रेट स्टोरी. आपकी शुरुआत एज अ लिरिसिस्ट स्पेसिफिकली.
Well, फिलहाल तो ऐसा नहीं है कि I'm the only name. There are many more. One of my closest friends in the industry is Anvita Dutt, who's not just a lyricist, a wonderful screenwriter, director, and many more. But well, not many more, but yes, there are names that are coming in. लेकिन ये सवाल मुझसे कई बार पूछा जाता है, और मैं हमेशा वही जवाब देती हूँ जो मुझे लगता है कि people are expecting a more sparkling response. लेकिन सच तो ये है कि it is a socio-cultural kind of embedded in our socio-cultural history. क्योंकि जो औरत है वो शायरी की और पोइट्री की, not just in our country, across continents and across generations and centuries, they are often, and not all, yeah, they're often the subject of romantic poetry. They are the beloved, they are the बेवफा, you know, या तो वो हुस्न की बात होती है औरत की, या उसकी बेवफाई की बात होती है, from Shakespeare to you know, our Hindi film lyrics. लेकिन she's very rarely the creator herself. So I before we spoke, I called up my sister, who's a writer herself, and her name is Kausar Munir, and I asked her that, you know, you tell me, what do you think of this? Why are there such few lyricists and poets and that? And she offered a very lovely quote by Susan Sontag, who's a writer, philosopher, and activist, saying that, you know, women are still in the cultural minority.
Okay.
So as in the demographic we are 50%, but culturally जो हमारा representation है वो इतना because we are in a minority, and that's why, you know, it doesn't strike you to kind of pursue those careers which are meant for, you know, like I recently wrote the dialogues for a show that's on Sony Live. It's called Rocket Boys, and all the scientific scenes, the rooms that were filled with in the halls of science, and they were all filled with men. So we kind of, you know, yeah. And then I was like, no. So then we kind of made it a conscious choice to have the women, at least in the lives of these men, have a strong voice and a role to play. So was such a, that really struck me. We are in the cultural minority. तो हमको पहले हम वो जगहें भर रहे हैं जो at least जहाँ पे वो खुला हुआ access है, where we can go to certain colleges, be doctors, be engineers, be so and so. But poetry, it still seems. I'll end now with telling you about, I think it was Dhoom 3. I'd written a couple of songs for Dhoom 3, and one of the people who was one of the family members of the people who was involved in the making of the film asked me, "Oh, so what do you do?" I said, "I'm a writer and I've written this song." Oh, and she was a woman, and she was a older woman, and she turns around to says to me, "Oh, it's such a good hobby."
Oh.
So there you are. That encapsulates that even women think of it like that. Now, if I tell you, think of a CEO, imagine a CEO, immediately 90%, 99% people will imagine a man. You will not imagine a woman CEO. So these are, social, and that's why feminist poetry festival very important.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And Kausar, when you were talking, there were so many bulbs going on in the mind about these similar experiences that I may have had, right? And this one poet that I was talking to who said that, it's men have held the canon together, and I'll come back to the canon. So they find it their birthright also to comment कि ये तो vocabulary ही सही नहीं है. ये किस तरह की ये क्या domestic poetry क्यों हो रही है यहाँ पर इतनी ज्यादा. ये मैंने अक्सर सुना है, शायरों के लिए भी सुना है कि क्या चाय की चीनी की बातें हैं. अब बाबा आप जिस माहौल से जो आपका प्लेग्राउंड है, the fact that you're able to elevate the ordinary into something of an aesthetic experience, for me that's a win, right? Our starting lines have not been the same. So I was precisely thinking about all of this when you were talking. But no, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for sharing the fact that even picking up creative professions and calling ourselves a professional, just the
Mm.
simple act of saying that, hey, I'm a professional, is
Mm.
also sort of a rebellious statement to make. It is not normal, it is not just there.
Yeah, which is वो actually वो अफसोस की बात है, because मैं अपना experience बयां करती हूँ कि it took me the longest time to use the word lyricist for myself. It really took me the longest time. It was, I mean, I know immediately. I did one song for Tashan, that is Falak Tak, and then I forgot about it because I didn't think I wanted to pursue that, or it wasn't even a thought till Ishaq Zadeh happened. So Ishaq Zadeh was my first album, a complete album, and Ishaq Zadeh was a bona fide album and a hit, I may add. But I would find it very difficult to say I'm a lyricist, because I thought, oh, I need to do more. I need to prove. That sadly is our cultural conditioning. कि the onus and the pressure is on the woman to prove herself and be worthy. आपने ये words की बात कही कि ये जो मैंने poem कही, many of the, and I have seen that many of the purists, and who are mostly men, who come from the class, they will not consider this a poem, because it does not fall in the, it's a different thing. That Iqbal was one of the biggest, to use your word, flag bearers of free verse. But no,
Yes.
So, but and I have to keep explaining myself that, and actually I shouldn't. See, there you are again, cultural condition. I'm think I have to explain myself that this is my language, this is my vocabulary, so I shouldn't really care. Yes, there is good poetry and there is bad poetry. So I have a lot of women, I'm sorry to say, who because I'm a woman, try to send me their work, and I'm like, please don't. Please do not send me your work, because I'm not the last word on it. And दूसरा, कल को मैंने एक लाइन ले लिया, फिर बोलेंगे, फिर वो एक लॉयर लगाना पड़ता है कि भाई लव यू जिंदगी आपका टर्म था.
हाँ. On that note, डियर जिंदगी के गानों ने ना हम जैसे बहुत लोगों को बचाया है, तो उसके लिए शुक्रिया. Thank you. Those songs have come to be of help to us. I think that's also so much gratification that as an artist that you should take from me with whole heart, all heart. But मैंने सोचा था ये क्वेश्चन मैं बाद में पूछूंगी आपसे. But टफर है. लिरिक्स आपने ऑलरेडी एडमिट कर दिया है. मैं बस समझने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ किस किस लेवल पे टफर है टू बी अ फीमेल लिरिसिस्ट, टू नॉट हैव एन एग्जिस्टिंग सिस्टरहुड, टू नॉट हैव एन एग्जिस्टिंग कम्युनिटी. वो बनेगी इंशाल्लाह, जल्दी बनेगी, लेकिन अभी नहीं है.
Can I give you one very basic and unexpected answer, which is directly affects my life as a female lyricist? Toilets. Washrooms. Washrooms in studios are, first of all, there's one. So it's all geared towards men. It is like all sorts of, I become outside that toilet door, I'm a lyricist. I'm all like, Kausar ma'am. And inside that, I am the kind of, a cleaner. Because first I will wipe down the seat, then I will do other things. And I'm like, let's come to it's so simple. It's, basic. in that sense. So and it's not just studios, it's everywhere. I mean, when people say road trip, I think UTI. Because
Yes.
because where do we go, what do we do? तो अब क्या किस का गम उठाइए, किस को रोइए, हर it's tough being a woman.
Yeah.
So I'm telling, and then as soon as I get out, I have to start thinking of Radif and Kafia and the hits and flops and Bhushan Kumar and Commerce and so it's like
No, I hear you. I completely get you. And ये मुझे register नहीं हुआ था privileged upbringing, and I accept my privilege here till I started traveling, till I decided I want to get out of home and explore the world. And now, mashallah, I'm in Himachal Pradesh. I'm in a very good place, since you see all sweatered up
yes,
and everything. It's very cold here.
mm,
But with respect to professions which are out in the field professions,
mm,
this is a very common malaise that I've heard, and which frankly it's such a basic thing, but it has no solution. I don't see how that it's
mm.
continuing. 21st century मतलब जाओ, but 21st century में अगर इतनी basic चीज नहीं हो पा रही तो कैसे चलेगा? So I thank you for sharing actually. And yeah, I mean, we'll probably come back to this track, but
But I must tell you one thing about the, at least in the music industry within Bollywood, it is democratic in the sense that it gives grief to men and women equally. You are more, yeah, you are more kind of valued by your hits and your flops.
right,
So
right.
that you may be the most womanliest woman ever, but if you are giving me all the chart busters and the whatever views,
Yeah,
there's no problem.
numbers,
So
numbers,
हाँ,
basically.
तो उस तरीके से तो at least Bollywood is democratic. And here I'm exclusively talking about women who are not in the performing arts. It's a completely different ball game for actors, singers. So female actors, female singers they have it much harder. But as female technicians, yes, you have to, and yes, you kind of do have to prove yourself that you're worthy of the task. But I think एक और जो धीरे धीरे अच्छी चीज हो रही है, films are being cast, even the crew is being cast. So I'm happy that if I have a certain voice and people are uh, taking me for the songs, or because they want that sort of style, then it makes sense.
Understood. Understood. So, on this note, I would also like to tell our viewers, if you have any questions for Kausar, please do post them in comments, and we will definitely select a few to ask her. We still have half of this session left, so bring on your questions. But I will go back and I will change a bit of the track. Kausar's romantic tracks are what have been melting our hearts for a very long time. And here is, I think, a creative process question more than anything. अब रोमांस तो रोमांस है, एंड हर बारी सिचुएशनली उसको एक अलग तरह का चोगा पहनाना, उसको एक अलग तरह से प्रेजेंट करना, इसके पीछे प्रोसेस क्या रहता है आपका?
उस लिहाज से मैं बड़ी, जिसे कहते हैं ना, लकीर की फकीर हूँ, क्योंकि जो स्क्रिप्ट मुझे देता है, दैट्स वो जमीन है जो जितनी उपजाऊ वो जमीन होगी, फिर वहीं से फिर वो नया फूल खिलेगा. और है बहुत सारी वैरायटीज हैं गुलों की, लेकिन वो कौन सा फूल खिलेगा, वो दैट इज द वर्ल्ड ऑफ, दैट्स व्हाई आई as we have this conversation with music composer friends and my colleagues who are lyricists, the generic love song and the sad song, that's easier to do because it's such a universal and a felt experience. What is really hard for me personally to do is that party song, that shadi song, that item song, because it requires you to be very chalta phirta and clever and catchy. But there, I think, as a woman, all my hackles come up.
Okay,
I
yeah.
will, then I want to, and then, yes, of course, if you have the caliber of a Gulzar Saab, you can do a Bidi Jalaile and Aankhein bhi kamal karti hain. But that is, yeah, those are item numbers, those are mujras. But wahan pe meri thodi si gaadi, because I cannot do and I don't want to do what the Badshahs and the Mani Singhs do, and that runs a lot. So, but I do have a problem with that, and I know they're wonderful sounds and they're wonderful beats and they're lovely, well produced and they're catchy. Lekin wahan pe I feel, you can be a little more thoughtful about the words you use.
Absolutely,
It
absolutely
doesn't
agreed.
all have to be about the baby and the gaadi mein baith jana and the skirt pehen lena and. I think that is more a function of your caliber and your talent and skill as an artist.
Completely understood,
Yeah.
completely understood, and completely resonate with what you're saying. Is there your personal favorite amongst what you have written? I mean, a love song.
I have a soft corner for, of course, Ishak Zadeh. All the songs, Pareshan, even the Ishak Zadeh, the title track, which was a love song. So yes, I do have, but and along the way, I think maybe because there is some sort of a public sort of appreciation attached to it. Songs like maybe Mana Ke Hum Yaad Nahi, or now even Dubey. What I'm really happy about is that my 20-year-old daughter who's in New York is kind of saying like, oh, I can't do my assignment because I'm just listening to your song on loop. I'm like, yeah, nice, good. This is a new my dog ate the homework kind of. But so
Yeah, yeah, and so अभी नए नए formats आते हैं ना popularity के, पहले
yeah.
views numbers and all, and आजकल
Uh,
reels पे आपका गाना कितना.
yeah. My Instagram is whatever spammed by reels. Yeah.
Yeah, same. All of our Instagrams also. Every third reel we are opening, it's Dubey's
Mm.
playing in the background, and I'm sure it must feel great. It must feel amazing. So, on that note, what is probably the most gratifying response you have received, whether by a colleague or by an audience member? I'm not even asking for a fan moment. I'm asking for that, your heart knows then, acha theek hai, acha kar rahe hai. So, in terms of responses, is there anything that you hold special to
You mean
yourself?
generally or for this song?
No, generally, through your career.
It's very odd that you ask me this. It seems like quite a huge, not an out and of the ordinary question. लेकिन मुझे इसका जवाब नहीं पता. Nothing is coming to mind because I'll tell you what. In that sense, I write for an audience of one, and that audience of one is not even the composer or the singer. For me, that one is the director.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
essentially I feel we are writing for film. तो जब director जहाँ खुश हो जाता है ना, and especially if it's a hard to please director, and if that happens, that feels, then I don't care. Like I remember once one composer telling me, "आप अजीब हो." Again, it has a tinge of very kind of a male female point of view to it. He said to me that आप अजीब हो, आप पैदा करके छोड़ देते हो, फिर वो बड़ा होके गाना आपका मर्डरर बने, ड्रग एडिक्ट बने, आपको कोई परवाह नहीं है. Which is somewhat true, if I've kind of delivered to the satisfaction of the person who has the whole vision of the film, then I just move on.
Okay. One more question on your career as a lyrics writer. Where do you think you're in your journey right now? Do you think you've decently moved ahead and evolved? Do you think it's still a starting point? Do you think you now know your idiom? You're there. Personally,
I
as a writer, what do you feel?
I have been made aware of my idiom, which I try not to sort of take that too seriously, because then you might get caught in it. I have people say to me that you're able to use simple words and convey deep thoughts, or that sort of thing. That's a nice space to be in. Lekin I try to live in the moment and write in the moment, because if I get stuck in some preconceived notion or image of myself, I think that's a disservice to for any artist. To it's a in fact, I appreciate those people who you can't really who are genuinely versatile. But I do know कि मेरा there's a voice that I have in my lyrics which comes quite naturally. And and as far as where in my career I am, I never came. I mean, first of all, I was always in Bombay, so I never came to this industry with a dream and a diary or anything like that. It is like one step at a time, one day at a time, and it's still like that. I also feel कि क्या होता है ना यहाँ पे अगर, and this, if any new people are listening, it might be helpful to them. If something blows up soon in your career in a good way, I mean, it blows up as a hit or something. Like, for example, Dubey. So Dubey has new composers and a new singer. And I know the excitement and the joy. And yesterday I was doing a promotion interviews with the music team for Gehraiyan. And the singer Latika, beautiful, wonderful singer, she was saying that, she was overwhelmed and she kind of was crying. She was actually crying tears of joy, and that is the first cycle of success in this industry, and then it dips. No matter how well you continue to do, it dips, and then you have to rise there again from through consistent work, not one hit, not one film, consistent work. And I think now I've reached that point, so it doesn't really matter that much. Of course you feel very happy if you are successful, लेकिन अब ये है कि गाड़ी एक स्टेशन से दूसरे स्टेशन तक चलती रहेगी.
Got it. और जो आपकी हम क्योंकि वॉइस की बात कर रहे थे and you said that you've been made aware that it is idiomatic at some level. आपका अपना एक idiom develop हो चुका है या हो रहा है. आपका non film poetry का voice और idiom आपको लगता है अलग है?
बिल्कुल अलग है.
कैसे?
बिल्कुल अलग है. क्योंकि I'm not, I feel a lot of things. I know a lot of things through experience, through. I am not good at debate. I am not good at. I'm not that person. I'm not good at sitting in a room of filled with people and making a point, and then and intellectually fighting, seeing that point through. I'm not good at standing front and center at protests, because that's not my personality. It overwhelms me. I feel just by being a good citizen, doing the job that you do well is kind of enough, that you're doing for the cause, but it's not enough. And that's where I think I'm glad I found this idiom. I found this voice. I don't know how much it matters, or if even it makes a small dent, but at least I'm able to use my words, and I'm able to use my skill, not for profit of any kind. Not, it's not to appease anyone, it's not for the it's not commissioned by anyone. लेकिन ये ऐसा मैं सोचती हूँ, और यही एक तरीका है जिससे मैं ये कह पाती हूँ. तो ये जो आपने सुना, कविता अभी शुरू नहीं हुई, there's no beating around the bush. It's a very political poem. It's entirely political. But this is how I know how to say that. If you tell me to go and stand in a debate or stand in a political rally, I'll be a huge disappointment.
Understood. No, which is why I also asked this question. I personally associate a certain softness with your lyrics. And then while researching on this session, while researching on you, when I came across that video in which you're reciting this poem, part of me was not able to accept that it is the same person that is writing that also and this also. But maybe that's a framework of a brief where I'm not saying your personal voice is not coming out. I'm sure it is coming out.
Yeah.
But the very affected voice, which needs to always function outside a framework, which can't function inside a framework.
But sometimes you get the opportunity. Because, for example, 83 के मैंने 3 गाने लिखे, लहरा दो being one of them. And सरकशी का परचम लहरा दो is equally patriotic and equally making some sort of a statement. I am very proud of. I have no problem in fact, I feel good. And I feel proud going and doing that 26 Jan the flag hoisting, and seeing the kids. It's important. I remember in school, I used to be one of, when it was still optional, I used to be one of those people who always wanted to go, optional or not, attendance or not. Because you felt like a part. You were part of something. And that is the choice we made. I mean, by saying Sarkashi and saying Parcham and saying Lehrado, I'm no less Indian, and I'm no less, I don't feel any less. So yes, sometimes you get the opportunity.
Wonderful.
And I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We are also receiving some questions. We will soon filter them out and put them in front of Kausar. But I think one of the things that we have not touched just a little bit, would love to talk about the fact that you're a screenwriter and dialogue writer as well. Does that complement you being a poet? Is it dissociative? Do you do it as a distraction? Ki kuch aur naya karna hai? Ya phir it just brings the over as a writer together?
not as a distraction, as an attraction. Because yeah, I would get bored. See, like I told you, I was there was no plan. So I was in Xavier's. I started working as a research assistant with a documentary filmmaker. From there, I did some show. From there, I did Just See. From there, Just See mein hi Vijay Krishnacharya was the head writer on that show. He was making his first film, Tashan. He asked me to do Falak, that song which became Falak Tak Chal. So, I just, things just kept happening, and I kept going with it and grabbing the opportunities also. It's not, I'm not a very ambitious person, but I'm not laid back. I kind of step forward when, like when opportunity knocks, I open the door. So, so this is how it's been with my career. So yes, so then of course screenwriting or dialogue writing, I do a lot of work which doesn't come in the public eye, but there are events and some government script work, some social sector. So I do a lot of all of that. Also in my case, I think I have one slight advantage of having I'm able to write in both languages, in English and in Hindi. So a lot of that work, like screenplay gets done in with that voice. I enjoy it. और मुझे अगर मुझे एक ही चीज करनी होती तो मैं बोर हो जाती. Yeah.
और अगर आपको कुछ और करना होता, like this hypothetical fun question, if you weren't a writer, poet at all, तो आप क्या होते?
No, कुछ नहीं
Nothing.
होता. No, because I am, in that sense, I am poetic by nature. I'm not saying I'm some great poet, but there is that sort of a romanticism and the poetic sort of nature in my personality. Like, I am terrible at emails. I can't stand it. Like, I just pick up the phone, and the emails make me, because I feel there is such formality and officiousness to it, which I cannot handle. I hats off to people who day in and day out go into an office, do that job. It is hard. It is hard. And I really, and that's not ordinary. It's an extraordinary thing that they do. It is easier to be poetic and be this thing, but it's very hard to kind of do what 90% of this country does.
Yeah. So if Charvi's question, writing poetry for yourself or keeping audience in mind, is there a dilemma?
No dilemma. Writing poetry for myself is for myself. I do it for me and whatever I want to say. Keeping audience's mind is the lyrics. So that, of course, yes, and it is a job. It is a business. I mean, I completely understand. I will not completely dismiss the producer or the music company and their concerns, because फिर वहां पे वो एक joint effort है, और आपको audience को मद्देनजर रखते हुए ही अपना काम करना पड़ेगा. That's where ये to platforms like Commune, who made me discover my own voice and do things.
Absolutely. Yeah. A quick question aake chala gaya. I think it was Heman's question about what choice of words, what thoughts go into the choice of words for your songs.
Your life experience, what you have, what the life that you've lived, other books that you've read, the movies that you've seen, the people that you've met, the relationships that you have, the relationships that you didn't have, all of that are your thoughts, and your words and vocabulary will come. They come from जो एक तो जो आपको घर में आपने सीखा, some that vocabulary, what you heard. Not so much what you went to school and the language that you were taught as ABC, but the language that you heard. Like I said to you, that I learned to read and write Urdu 2 years ago, but I had heard it since I was a baby. So I recognized the words. So vocabulary comes from, learning, and thoughts come from life.
Understood. This is just to understand a bit of you. Okay, Charvi, do you think writing bilingual poetry is more effective way of conveying your emotions or thoughts? How does being bilingual help you generally?
More work, more opportunities for work. But no, it can never and should never be a studied or a planned approach. Writing should come from yes, you can better your skills, but your expression and your language of expression should that you don't even have to think about it. It comes to you, I'd say quite organically.
Understood. And this is again to understand you as a person a little more. Who are the poets, and specifically female poets, that you would look up to or who you would like to read? who you like to read actually?
Well, coming from an English literature background, I mean, I have always loved the usual suspects, from Jane Austen to Emily Dickinson to when I जब खुद होश संभाले और बाहर की दुनिया पर के बारे में पता चला, so of course Amrita Pritam and but the thing is, I now that you're asking me, I never thought like that, because for me poetry was poetry, so whether it is Eliot or it's Yeats or it's Ghalib or it's Iqbal or it's where we were talking about Bachchan Saab, Harivansh Rai Bachchan. It is, and oddly enough, I've not had favorite poets. I've had
Right.
favorite poems, So yeah, but yeah, in college I had a particular interest in Eliot, and I have always, as a child, when I heard songs on radio, somehow then I later found out that जो गाना मुझे naturally attract कर रहा है वो गुलजार साहब का लिखा.
अच्छा, अरे वाह! चलिए, सो कौशल सेशन के क्लोज की तरफ हम जा रहे हैं, and this session is also, I've been told by our technical team that the session is also being appreciated by a lot of people, and I think we are now moving towards औरत का कायदा. तो मैं जरूर चाहूंगी आप वो पोएम रिसाइट करें और उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताएं. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है. जब हम डिस्कस भी कर रहे थे कि सेशन को नाम क्या दें, तब आपने बताया कि इस तरह की एक पोएम आपने लिखी है. तो कायदा क्या होता है उन लोगों के लिए जो नहीं जानते कि कायदा क्या होता है और क्यों ये पोएम, और फिर उसका रेसिटेशन.
ये आई थिंक ये बहुत अलग अलग इम्प्रेशंस को मैंने सोचा भी नहीं. That it's just like a sort of a melting pot, this poem. I think I wrote it around Women's Day. I think it was for some event. उर्दू का कायदा करके मेरे ख्याल से मैंने कुछ पढ़ा था, तो वो मेरे जहन में रहा था कि basically this is not that Qaida Kanun is rules and regulations. There's another meaning of the word with the kaf. So Qaida means like a primer, like an ABCD book. So that's the meaning of Qaida. So I thought that everybody is all the time trying to define what one should be. So and there is no one thing. There is absolutely no one thing. We can be many things, anything. And today I can say I am this, and tomorrow I should be able to have the complete choice and freedom to say, no, I have changed my mind. Now I'm not a shoe, I'm a hat. So, to quote Rachel from Friends. So I'm a purse. So I can be any of that. So, and that's why Urdu Ka Qaida is something that I wrote to say that, we can be what we choose. And that I think the freedom of choice, making your independent choices, is what very quite frankly feminism, equality, humanity is all about. कि भाई मुझे जो खाना है, जो पीना है, जो पहनना है, वो करने दो. Yeah.
इसी बात पर कौसर, let's hear the poem and let's bring the grand close to this session.
Okay. औरत का कायदा. So as in so I've gone with the Roman spelling of Aurat, Aurat. So I have taken each letter and weave the poem around that. Aurat ka Qaida. A से अनार, मेरी मखमली तिजोरी में एक अनार, एक अनार के 3.5 मिलियन मार. पर खबरदार, ये जो है ना मेरा रसीला अनार, कभी है लाल चमकीले पन्नों की बौछार, तो कभी लाल चमकीले कतरों का सैलाब. बड़ा टची है मेरा अनार. इसके माथे पे दिखता है गुलाब, इसके गालों में खिलता है गुलाल. पर खबरदार, ये जो है ना मेरा रसीला अनार, इसके मन में है मिलियन मलाल, 350 बिलियन इनकलाब. बड़ा सेंटी है मेरा अनार.
वाह.
यू से उन्स. उन्स क्या होता है? उनसे पूछो जिनका हंसना, गाना, रोना, धोना, चीखना, चिल्लाना, मचिज्मो, ब्रवाडो बार बार उन्स कहलाया जाता है, सराहा जाता है, वाह वाह बताया जाता है. या उन्स क्या होता है? उनसे पूछो जिनका हंसना गाना, रोना धोना, चीखना चिल्लाना, पैशन कंपैशन, वोलिशन वायोलेशन बार बार तंज बताया जाता है, हंसी में उड़ाया जाता है, अटेंशन सीकिंग आह बताया जाता है।
वाह,
मैं अपने उन्स को आहों और वाहों के जजमेंटों से अलग अपना बना के रखती हूँ, बचा के रखती हूँ, क्योंकि अच्छा भला बद या बदनाम मेरा उन्स अनअपोलोजेटिकली मेरा है, मेरी मोहब्बत है, मेरी अदावत है, मेरी एक बेटी है, मेरा उन्स उसकी अमानत है।
वाह,
आर से वर्जीनिया वुल्फ, because she said to write, every woman should have a room of her own. I see your visionary room, dear madam, but raise you my own. मैं कहती हूँ, to be every woman should have a room of her own. वो कमरा जहां मेरे सिवा और कोई नहीं रहता, जहां छत मेरे ज़र्फ की हो, फर्श मेरे सोच की हो, ड्योरी मेरी मर्जी के हो, खिड़कियां मेरे सच की हो. So really, R for room, but because she was the Zaria, R for Virginia.
वाह,
A से अमर चित्र कथा. हर औरत के पास इसका अपना बॉक्स सेट होना चाहिए. अपनी कथा का अपना अमर चित्र होना चाहिए. अपनी पद्मावत अपने जौहर होने चाहिए. अपनी करनी अपनी मणिकर्णिका होनी चाहिए. अपने आसमान की चांद बीबी, अपनी मिट्टी की अमृता, अपनी फियरलेस नादिया, अपनी आलमारा होनी चाहिए. हर औरत को अपनी कथा, अपना चित्र, अपने आप को खुद अमर रखना चाहिए.
वाह,
T, the final letter, T से तर्क. तर्क, also known as त्याग, abdication, abandonment, relinquishment. औरत के कायदे में क्या ये तर्क पैदाइश से होता है या पैदा किया जाता है? पाल पोस के बढ़ा किया जाता है. अपनों से पहले दूसरों का सोचना, नाखूनों से खुद पे लगे लेबलों को नोचना, औरों के ख्वाबों को पूरा करना, यानी ऑटोमेटिकली खुद के ख्वाबों का तर्क होना. कौन सिखाता है? इस तर्क को तर्क करने के लिए मेरा एक प्रपोजल है. बस एक बारी, नॉट तो नारी, बट बच्चों, बूढ़ों, मिस्टरों, मास्टरों, रिवाजों, पूर्वजों के ख्वाबों को तर्क किया जाए. हर औरत अपना कायदा खुद लिखे, औरत का एक नया कायदा फर्ज किया जाए.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है. बिल्कुल, अगर मुझ पे बोझ नहीं होता ना रिस्पॉन्ड करने का, तो मैं चुपचाप स्पीचलेस बैठ के थोड़ी देर इसको एब्ज़ॉर्ब करती. बट क्योंकि अभी आपकी ऑडियंस मैं हूँ और बहुत सारी है, लेकिन अभी मैं हूँ. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर राइटिंग दिस. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर रिसाइटिंग दिस. And I'm sure it's one of those poems I would like to go back and read and unlayer for myself. क्योंकि हमें ऐसे एकेडमी में पढ़ाया जाता है ना कि कविता वो अच्छी है जो हर बार पढ़ने पर एक और लेयर अपनी एक्सपोज करे. एंड इसमें थी. And thank you. I think this is the best note on which we conclude this session. I hope you
Yeah.
had a good time. Thank you
Absolutely,
so much.
absolutely. You've come so well prepared, and you've come with such a wonderful spirit of sort of the right kind of sisterhood and the right kind of you know enough, but you want to know more, and that really helps. That really helps the person you're talking
Thank you
to.
so much. One of those sessions, Kausar, I will definitely remember, and I hope people do too. Stay tuned. There are more sessions coming up. Thank you, Kausar, for finding time and for
Thank
being
you,
so
Saumya.
lovely.
Thank you, She the people, and this is wonderful. I really enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Perfect.